Tourism in Hawaii has been a hot topic issue for Kama'aina and Malihini alike. Recognizing the need for change, there's a growing movement within Hawaii's tourism industry to shift towards a more sustainable model. But what would that look like? Join us as we hear from community leaders on their efforts to paddle our va'a forward.
Test. There we go. Thanks for joining us for a panel on the future of tourism. Before we begin, I hope you all have been shopping at the Makeke. It's open until 3:30. I wanted to feel like a Hawaiian Oprah Winfrey, so I went and bought some picture cards from Alohi Images Maui, a local photographer. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists. We have Joe Ibarra, Kawika Freitas, Mahina Paishon Duarte, and Kalani Kaʻanāʻanā. I'm not going to tell you what they do because I think I'd like to start, and we'll go down the line on this one. Just give us a brief intro on what is your role in the industry and one thought on what you think tourism should look like in 10 years.
Aloha mai kākou. My name is Joey Barr. I'm the Vice President and General Manager of the Kahala Hotel and Resort. That property has been on the east side of Oahu. Next year it's going to be 60 years. I have been in the industry all in the islands on Oahu for over 20 years. My father worked in the industry, not at an executive level, but he was a buffet runner for 35 years. He's the guy who would go and make sure that when the buffet ran out of food, they would fill it up for the guests. And then my first introduction into hospitality here was, I didn't go to school for that. I'm not a UH Tim's school individual. I studied history. But my very first job, I worked at the Waikiki Beach Marriott, which is the old Hawaiian Regent, and I was a phone operator, a Local 5 union member. And then I was able to progress my career and through a management development program, actually get to where I am now. So hospitality, the industry, I grew up with it ever since I was a child. I did the charity walk fundraisers, I did the Keiki Christmas parties. And so that's a little bit of my background. I'm also proud to say that I'm alumni of Kamehameha Schools. I had the opportunity also to get Ivy League education. My father worked 3 jobs in order for him to support us growing up. He was a first-generation immigrant from the Philippines, came here when he was 29 years old. My mother is the native Hawaiian from Kapa'a, Kauai. They fell in love and they had 3 children, and the industry has supported us, raised us up, and then I'm glad to say that it's also supported my ohana as it is now. What is my role now that I've been 23 years in the business? I think that I came up in the industry in the early 2000s. I saw what it was like. I was a line worker. I was not a decision maker. And I think I have a due diligence to use this platform to affect change for the future. And I think I'm a small fish in a big pond. I'm an independent property with 338 rooms, but I do have 500 employees and their ohana that I have to support. And I think as a native Hawaiian and the perspective of what we need to do in the future, I need to utilize this platform as an executive in a private business, the largest business in the Waialae Kahala Ahupua'a, to affect change and make sure native Hawaiians and the Hawaiian culture is at the forefront. So I think that's what I need to do looking forward. In the next 10 years, what do I think it should be? I'd love to see regenerative tourism actually come to life, where the economy thrives, the community thrives, the culture thrives, everything thrives together. So I think in the next 10 years, I really hope the initiatives of HTA, the DMAPs, the bringing community forward will allow us to pivot and evolve tourism to what it can and should be. Mahalo.
Thanks, Joe. If I'm not mistaken, you are the first native Hawaiian GM for the Kahala Hotel and Resort?
Yes, the Kahala has been there for 60 years. I'm the first non-Caucasian, first but not last native Hawaiian to be at the helm of the resort.
Okay.
Mahalo.
Kawika, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. My name is Kawika Freitas. I actually hail from Honaunau. Lived right next to Pu'uhonua o Honaunau, where I was raised. Went to Kamehameha as well. Graduated 1985. A little bit about my culture and my background is was a hula dancer. And then when I moved here, I needed to get a serious job. Hula dancing was a little bit too much fun. And so I worked for Aloha Airlines for 20 years until they closed. And then I got picked up at the old Lahaina Lua, one of the best things to happen to me. I am now currently the Director of Public and Cultural Relations there. There was a few things that I have done recently that I'm pretty proud of myself, and that one was being part of the DMAP, for the Maui DMAP, which is a destination management. We need tourism management, so I think that was very important to be on that committee. What was really cool about it was that we realized that each island was unique and they needed their own. Some things overlap, but each of us had our own, and then we made our own, and that was great. The other thing that I was partially involved with for 4 years was being on the Maui Planning Commission. And thank you to Maui County, and I'm not sure if it's for all counties, but they require a cultural advisor on most of their, or all of their boards and commission. And I represented the cultural side on the board. I learned a lot. I did a lot to support the Lahui through that. What I see and what I hope to see as tourism in the next 10 years would be to take that DMAP, the Destination Tourism Management, and separate it and have it run by the people. I heard Hokuau talk about it earlier. It has to be driven from the people. It cannot be under the same people that they work for, under the people that market and brand us. Has to be by the people. Thank you. I would also like to see, and we've done some of these things with our tourism, which is limit the access to some of these more popular sites. Charge the people to come and use that money to go back. We are doing it. We need to do it more. I would like to see, during COVID, we had experienced a revitalization of our beaches and our island. It was happy. Things were growing. Things we've never seen before starting to come back. I would like to see short periods that certain places is shut down for a few days or a few weeks. Let it get back to what, get healthy. Just like us. We need to go once in a while, get massage, lomi, right? That is what I look forward to. There's more I can share, but I don't want to take up all the time. Let you go.
Mahalo, Kawika. Mahina?
Aloha nui kākou. Ke aloha no. Mahina Paishon. My great-great-grandmother is Ane Kaho'opi'i, and our extensions of the Poipoi clan. I'm getting to know my Kipahulu, Honua Ula, and Kaupo clans here on Maui. I am the least entrenched in the industry. I have a very interesting learning journey. Started off at gathering seaweed, fixing kuopa walls at He'eia, starting different charter schools and culture-based immersion schools as a po'okumu, worked with some awesome kanaka at a federal agency in policy, didn't like it very much. And now I'm before you as a small business person, an entrepreneur. I'm here today because I occupy a particular role at Hawaii Tourism Authority as its vice chair on the board. And I put my name in the hat and I took on the kuleana because that seat is your seat, your seat, your seat. That is our seat. I occupy that seat for our community to have an additional entryway to shape and inform and influence an important authority that has a specific kuleana. We need to get over-tourism in control. And in 10 years, I see Lahaina, all of the things that have been shared by our panelists and our keynotes this morning and yesterday, we will see Lahaina as a shining example for how this community came together and our extended ohana locked arms and supported our Lahaina warriors, educators, healers, community members to uplift a regenerative tourism model that is tangibly supporting our aina, the restoration of Vai, supporting Kanaka-led businesses. We need all of us to come up with very specific and concrete examples for how legislators and funders can come together to support your brilliant ideas. My role is very small, but I will take seriously my role, and that is to widen the access for all of you to inform and share your best and brilliant ideas so that we can shift this thing together. And in 10 years, tourism will not be, we're gonna manifest this together, will not be the driver of our economy. We will manifest a more diversified economy. But tourism has a responsibility to support revenue that can help to increase diversification within other sectors, creative industries, and so forth. And I'm just really excited that Kilohana Collective is working side by side of HTA. We need all of us working together to really huli this thing. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Mahina. And last but certainly not least, everybody's favorite ginger, Mr. Kalani Kaʻanāʻanā.
Is that all I'm good for? Darn. Ano ai me ke aloha. Like Tyler said, I'm Kalani. I have the privilege of being a couple of things at the Hawaii Tourism Authority at the moment. But before I say all of those fun titles, I'm really a son of Kailua. That's my home on Oahu. It always has been my home, and I hope it can always be my home. When I grew up in Kailua, I think many of you are familiar with it. The demographics have changed in our town significantly. I think also about how tourism impacted our community over the last few decades, right? And so I've lived that evolution in my lifetime, certainly. And really, I think that's what bore my interest in getting into the role at HTA. I actually got a cold call from a headhunter at Bishop & Company that was like, I saw your thing on LinkedIn. I think you'd be great for this Director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs position. And I was like, what is that, Mufi? And then, no, this is the Hawaii Tourism Authority, not the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association. And so anyway, that just, I think, for me, kind of illustrated, I knew nothing. But what I knew is I was tired of complaining from the outside. I knew I wanted to huli kalima I lalo. I wanted to get my hands muddy. I wanted to figure out how I could get into the system, understand it, and then affect change. And so I think for me, when I see tourism down the road in 10 years, I hope early retirement is part of that. Because I'm going to manifest that too. But also I think more importantly, I think a lot of the shared vision that we discuss, not only in Hawaiian community, but I think communities abroad, across Hawaii, is that we cannot do them the same way. Something's got to change. The way we're doing it now is not sustainable. The impacts are too great, and some of the benefits aren't being directed appropriately. And so I think we'll get into some of that, the meat of what that I think looks like. But happy and grateful to be here with all of you on Maui. Mahalo.
Mahalo. I feel like I'm the only person who didn't link myself to land at this point. So I'm also from Kailua with Kalani. I've seen the changes he's talking about. My ohana is from Kaupo and Wailuku and Makawao, just to set that landscape. Earlier, Kuhio, our amazing CEO, was talking about how it's about time that we have a seat at the table. And he's talking, obviously, about Kilohana's ability to work with the HTA on destination stewardship. And a lot of what we just heard about having seats at the table and where the vision is in 10 years is reflective of a lot of the negative, I think, criticisms we have of the industry. And that's very common in this lahui, right? And that's okay. But what I do want to focus on before we move on, and maybe we can start with Kawika on this one, can you talk a little bit about the significant positive impacts from your perspective that tourism has had either in your community, on your community, in your work for your ohana?
Tourism.
Hey, no laugh.
This is a deep one. If I list the pros and the cons, I get plenty on the cons, not too many on the pros, on how tourism has benefited our native Hawaiians. But one thing that I feel, and I heard it earlier by Neil Hanna, and he talked about the Renaissance, the Hawaiian movement. I think tourism was a part of making that happen. When Hollywood started to put hula dancers on camera doing who knows what the heck they're doing, somebody said, stop, we got to do it right. Hula came out of it. When things that were printed, words were written, Hawaiian words was being butchered, stop. Our Hawaiian language came from that. Some of these things that tourism did do positive was get us there. And I really think that tourism, it created itself in Hawaii. Isn't it time that instead of the tourists telling us what we have to offer them, we tell them, you come to Maui, we provide you with what we think Maui should be. Maui is about its beauty, its people, and its culture. Earlier, Blaine put a triangle up there, and he used 3 points. And I also want to share the 3 very, very successful points, and I call it the 3 C's: commerce, community, and culture. Not just this way or that way. You need those 3 to make things happen. That is what I can share for you.
And that's really great, right? Because what you're saying is there's an intentionality behind controlling those narratives. The only way you make it positive and make it beneficial is if the right people, like we just talked about, they have seats at the table. And without that, that's where, the con list starts to really outnumber the pro list. Maybe we manifest a longer pros list in the next 10 years than cons. Joe, in your work, what do you see in terms of positive impacts of tourism?
I took the helm of the Kahala in 2019, right before COVID. Prior to that, I was working on a new concept. Maybe some of us in this room are staying at hotels that have something called a resort fee, mandatory in addition to the room rates. A lot of it is surprises, and it includes things that you should already get, like coffee in your room, a newspaper in the lobby, etc. I was coming up in the business in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, where this was being implemented across Waikiki, and now it's a very common thing across the state and many other places around the world. I had the opportunity to create something and flip it upside down. So I created something called the Kahala Initiative for Sustainability, Culture, and the Arts. So the acronym is KISCA. We invite our guests an optional fee to pay $10 a day. All the money that is generated does not hit the bottom line of the hotel. It sits in a separate account and it gets put back into the community for anything that supports culture, sustainability, and the arts. It's a new concept. It's something that I wish the big box properties like the Hiltons and the Marriotts, I'm a small fish, I have 338 rooms. Hilton has 7,000 rooms. How do we create that opportunity? We create a platform like that, a mechanism, in order for it to go back into the community. What do I think? KISCA has supported someone who I think is an amazing individual, Anne-Marie Kirk. She runs a website called maunalua.net. She is someone that does documentaries, and KISCA helps support her in the sense of story catching. So she would go ahead and interview kupuna, talking about the olden days, because as they pass, the ike passes as well. So supporting people like her, we can recapture that, preserve it, and we can share it for future generations, I think is critical. So mechanisms like this, where I take the money and it goes back into these things which I hold dear, sustainability, culture, and the arts, I think is critical. Another thing that KISCA supports is the Native Hawaiian Music Perpetuation Society. There were some challenges with funding. They were going to do an event here, and Janine and Antiku'u Ipo came to me and they says, can you support? Absolutely. So we are able to bring people from outer islands to Oahu to share the music and the culture with people. I think mechanisms like that have helped benefit by keeping things preserved, but it also allows monies that we get from a business that exists. Tourists come, we can collect that funds and go directly back into the community. I'm a big believer in the Ahupua'a system. The Kahala is the largest private business within the Wailea Kahala Ahupua'a, and all the money support the nonprofits, the keiki, the schools within that region. I wish that I could be an example for Waikiki Ahupua'a, the other Ahupua'a around the island of Oahu, where people understand that they have a responsibility, a kuleana, to give back. If I can do it, other people can do it, and then everyone will rise up together. So I think utilizing the platform that already exists with the resort fee turning it upside down and putting the monies which are generated back into the community is critical.
That's incredible. A lot of people ask, what is destination stewardship? There's a lot of definitions of that, but I think, the art and practice we're seeing it, right, is Native Hawaiians, upon getting seats at the table, have the ability to flip the script, and that's what we need to see more of. But we also know it in what you just mentioned about culture, language, hula, right? Destination stewardship is maintaining all of those elements of who we are, because Hawaii as a destination does not exist without Olelo Hawaii and without hula, right? And so you cannot neglect any one of those elements, or else the destination falls apart. So putting that into practice, I want you folks to go home with tangible action items. How are we gonna huli the system? And so, Mahina, I'm gonna throw this one at you. Based on what Joe's doing at his hotel, how do we leverage, whether it's this community, the Lahui at large, or even the board, how do we pressure the other hotels to do the same thing? How do we make it an inevitability rather than an option?
Sure, thank you for that. So as a policy, kind of the policy strategies that we can put into play collectively, one is that you folks are organizing, whether it be Lahaina Strong, whether it be Lele Aloha with Uncle Archie folks, and there are many folks that are organizing around re-envisioning our economic systems that are going to assure healthy waters, healthy oceans, healthy communities. So what we need to do is a couple of things. One, statute-wise, so as an authority, our charge, the law that enables our work, does not include destination stewardship management. So that is one of the most important things that we as an authority needs to get done, and we're looking for your support. We need to make sure that it's on the books, that it is part of our legal mandate to support all of this. Right now, if you read the law, our primary charge is centered around marketing and branding. And we know, as a community, we want to pivot more towards, we need to refocus our efforts. We need to continue with branding and marketing as an important place that we love and care for our homeland. But we also need the legal charge and mandate to malama our place. And to do that, we have to put it into legal statute. So there will be efforts to do that with our legislators. We are looking for your voice to support that so that we have the actual legal kuleana to do that. There are other ways. I'm letting you know that we are getting at the end of our current strategic plan, which ends in 2025, which also implements DMAP processes. So very soon in 2024, we're going to start kicking off a new strategic planning effort. Stay tuned. There will be visible channels for which your voice is going to be actively sought. So what you can do to help us, so as long as I'm a part of the board with Chair Miyasato and the rest of there are other board members here, we are in alignment with Pono Destination Stewardship Management. And we need your ideas. We need concrete ideas to be able to implement as an authority. So when we put the call out and let you folks know, okay, this is when we're gonna start a strategic planning process, please get organized, and then whether it's through Chamber of Commerce, Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, whether it's through CNHA or Kilohana Collective, or through our Associated Hawaiian Civic Clubs, or any way that you organize yourselves, please bring that mana'o forward. There's also, and I'll kick it over to Kalani, there's also, we still have DMAP processes for which you can also feed into that. And then another area is through, because our counties, each county is very much involved with the DMAP process, that is one way that we can assure, we can strengthen the coordination between county and the state and community.
Thanks, Mahina. And Kalani, I'm going to toss something a little different to you, but the reason I started there is I wanted to highlight for folks the difference between the HTA board and Kalani, who is the HTA administrator, right, or one of the administrators for the HTA. And the board has a lot more political power and ability to take these higher level policy actions and get the solicitation from the community on how you'd like them to go. And then Kalani's the one who has to put them into practice. Kalani, did you uniki under Antimapu? No. You're an olapa for Halaumo Halailima? Nope.
Just a hula dancer.
Okay, wait. Somebody yesterday said we could call all hula dancers olapa. Did I misunderstand that one?
In our halau, I haven't uniki'd yet. So.
Got it. So he has cultural expertise. Your BA is in Olala, Hawaii. We did it at the same time. And yet, Kalani, as a state employee who works at the HCA, has faced significant pushback and backlash from people who feel that the work that he has been doing has been too Hawaiian. And he is too humble to come up here and say that, right? Because he don't like ruffle feathers, so I'll ruffle them for him. And part of the problem is, as a Lahui, there's so much eha that we're carrying. There's so much kaumaha. We want to be mad at somebody, so we're mad at the state, which means we're mad at the HTA, so we're mad at Kalani. That's not the way to go about it. Because at the end of the day, Kalani needs all of our kako'o to move the needle. Right? People think that it's a war on the HTA and we need to end it because they're not doing what we want. Actually, no. We just need to support them when they're doing the work that we like. Right? And it's not just about Kalani being able to infuse Aloha Hawaii and making sure that our place names are all spelled correctly, that we reference them correctly, that we respect places that don't need visitors going to them. That's not too Hawaiian. There is no such thing as too Hawaiian in Hawaii, but that is what he's faced. And so I really, really wanted to highlight that because you've had a very unfair go of it, and I think it's time people realize that the HTA is not a bad guy. We have really wonderful good guys there, and it's up to us to kako'o them. So, with that leading, Kalani, culture practitioners, we've got to navigate a lot of tension, particularly between preserving tradition, malama aina, all of those things, but also this industry requires us to accommodate tourists. It requires us to manage their expectations. Based off of what Mahina talked about, in practice, as the agency, how do we balance being as authentic as possible and preserving what's for us, and letting those visitors in where and when we want them?
Mahalo, Tyler. Okay, buckle up, everybody. How much time we got?
We have 22 minutes.
Perfect. I'm not going to use all of it. I want to bounce a bunch of different things because I've heard a lot, and I kind of want to take it in smaller pieces. So first and foremost, I think it's important to recognize, given the audience and the context that we're in here at Native Hawaiian Convention, that our board chair is Native Hawaiian. Our vice chair is Native Hawaiian. The interim president and CEO is Native Hawaiian. The chief brand officer, myself, is Native Hawaiian, and so many others, right? We have 2 Navahio Kalani Pu'u graduates that are on staff. One of them happens to be our public affairs officer. So when I think about HTA and its evolution, its direction, its strategy, all of those things have evolved. What's also evolved over time is resourcing and some of the stuff at the ledge that allow us to do that work. When I started in 2016, we had 32 staff. We're down to 23. And there's more work than there's ever been before, right? And so I think it's important that, like what Mahina said, is that when the next legislative session comes up, we have a kuleana to prove to those legislators the effectiveness of what we're doing. But I think it's important that community members like you understand that work because we're often partnered with you. Many of you have been funded through Kukuluola, Aloha Aina, the Community Enrichment Program, signature events, Resort Area Hawaiian Culture Initiative. In fact, this week, I think Monday, the portal closed, we're gonna award $10 million to community-based nonprofits for that work, this work that happens in community. I think about the elevator I ride in every single day at the Hawaii Convention Center. It's pu'ukukui. The whole elevator is wrapped in an image of pu'ukukui. And it has the sound of the birds in the elevator. And it's a perfect reminder of the kuleana that we bear every single day to our aina when we show up at work. I have the privilege of also being the vice president of the Kailua Hawaiian Civic Club. And one of our former presidents was Uncle Charlie Rose. He asked a question at convention one year and he said, every day he asked himself, and I'm paraphrasing, but he asked himself, what good thing have I done for a Hawaiian today? And he needed to answer that question for himself every single day. And I try to ask myself that same question every single day because I think it's important. This work is too important. Our home, our livelihoods are too important. The question I also ask myself is, why do we do it? We put our ecosystems, we put our communities and ourselves through all these things that allow our economy to function, but where is the benefit? And I think this is where I want to challenge and have a difficult conversation. Tourism is often conveyed as the economic driver, the number one. It's actually not number one. It's actually real estate. Tourism's usually number two. Jen, yell at me if I'm getting this wrong. Jen is our, it changed, okay. It's back to number one again. She's our tourism research director. That's why she keeps me honest. But I also think about like the slide that Blaine put up, right? $2 billion in tax revenue that gets generated. My question is, where are the decision makers allocating those resources? Because we talk about why we do tourism, it creates jobs, it creates economic benefit. I think the next question, the evolution of the conversation has to go beyond like, okay, yeah, it's the economic driver, but then how do we ask the deeper question, okay, where did that 2.2 billion in tax revenue go? How did it get invested? Where is it going? Because I think—
Kalani, and to clarify, who controls where the $2.2 billion goes?
the legislature.
Not HTA.
Not HTA. And I would also say now at a county level, right? The counties decide and the county councils decide where the county TAT goes. 3% gets charged in Maui County. I think I sat in a hearing not too long ago. I think it was around 85 million was collected in Maui County in the last fiscal year. And so again, where do those resources go? How do they get allocated? Because we know tourism causes impacts. But how do we mitigate them, right? So I'll pause there, but I want to push the conversation beyond the usual tropes. I want to push the conversation beyond, we tired of tourism, we don't like tourism. Okay, what are we going to do? Let's finish that sentence. Let's ask those questions. Let's get serious about what regenerative tourism could look like. How do we disrupt existing systems, right? How do we not just feed into existing systems so we create the new reality? We keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same result.
Yep. You know, I don't want to be all schoolhouse rock on you guys, but, you know, you have kuleana, right? You have legislators, you have council members. It's up to you to bug them and pester them and hound them on their phones and in their emails and their staff as much as it takes to get things done, right? Because otherwise your legislators are going to do what the louder people want. Your kuleana is to be the loudest person in the room when you engage with your policymaker. And so as a result of that, if you don't like where the $2.2 billion is being spent, that's on all of us. I'm not going to say you. That's on all of us to be calling our individual policymakers. But you want to know how much of that $2.2 billion goes back to the HTA, the only organization working on destination stewardship, making sure that tourism goes out of control? Kalani, how much of that $2.2 billion goes to HTA? $0. And so every year the HTA struggles to rub two pennies together to make the Lahui happy, to make the state happy, to make tourists happy, and they inevitably fall short because that's what they've been given to work with, and then the community gets mad, and then we go yell at Kalani, and that's not the path. So more tangible action I want to take out of this. You have to be engaged in the political process to make change. Mahina, you have some thoughts?
So what we can do collectively is we can demand for true accounting, transparent accounting. So we need, when I have conversations with my own family members, with all of you, when I'm in community, working alongside community, we're asking the same questions. How does those tourism-generated dollars, how does it affect my family? How much of those dollars are actually meaningfully coming back to my family so our kula kaiopuni doesn't have to continue to operate in the way that they're operating? We need to demand that we understand collectively how these monies are trickling down to actual family units, to actually individuals, so that we can make sure that there are more general managers, and that's not abnormal, but becomes normal for our kanaka to occupy all the C-suite positions.
Can I add something to Tyler? Sorry. You know, we often talk about the economic benefits, right? And so HTA for a long time has 4 KPIs. The first is resident sentiment. How do we feel about tourism? Visitor satisfaction. How does the visitor feel about the experience that they had? Per person, per day spend, and total expenditures. So that's the report card. What I would also say, though, is, again, to the point of pushing beyond okay, it's the largest economic driver, it creates 200,000 jobs. Those are really important. I don't want to diminish that. But I do want to push the conversation further to say, and Jen, keep me honest again, I believe according to READ, which is the Research Economic Analysis Division of DBED, 81 cents of every dollar spent by a visitor stays in Hawaii. Did I get it right? Correct. So I think it's important that we as Kanaka do our homework. We get really ma'a to the information so that we can be good advocates, right? We can hold people accountable. I think one of the other things that the other panel said was community is there to hold us accountable as public servants. I think that's absolutely true. I'm also gonna hold you folks accountable because I have to go with facts. And I know a lot of times we get really emotional and passionate, and all good, I do too. But I think it's important that we educate ourselves. So again, 81 cents of every dollar spent by a visitor stays here. But where is that dollar being spent? Is it being spent at one of our makeke, vendors outside? Or did it go to Starbucks? Don't worry, I'm a pumpkin spice girl. I love my pumpkin spice. But should I be going to Akamai Coffee, right? No, but should I go to Akamai Coffee or in Kailua Town Morning Brew? Again, I want to push us a little bit beyond the usual sort of like, okay, right on. But yeah.
So what he's talking about, dollars leaving the state upon spending, right? If you're going to Cheesecake Factory, that dollar is immediately leaving and going back to the corporation. The hotels, for the most part, are largely owned by large corporations. That money is all going offshore. That, I think, in the industry is called leakage, which is a really, why that word?
But Tyler, I got to push back, though. That 81 cents is inclusive of all the total economy.
Right.
Yeah. And so I know, Joe, you can speak to this too, or the lu'o.
Yep.
Those vendors that you pay for, like your food and your flower guys and your musicians and your whatever, those are all dollars that are spent in our economy too. So I get that some of the frustration is around corporations who set up shop in Hawaii and have businesses, but a vast majority, and I'm looking at Mike White up in the stands too, right? Like a vast majority of the money that's collected is also flowing back into the economy, again, to 81 cents to every dollar.
Right.
That's total economy, right?
And so that's actually perfect where I was going to go with that. I was going to highlight that people often focus on the corporations, but there are this is great. There are Ohana members who are reliant on that 81 cents, right? Because it makes their way to them, whether they work directly in the hotel or, people don't think about it, right? Who sews the hotel uniform? Sometimes that's done in state. Who does all the laundering for those things? That's not done on site, that's done off site. But
in my hotel, it's done on site. So I run a multi-million-dollar business, and to be honest with you, we have rent to pay, we have electricity to pay, we have vendors to pay, food suppliers to pay. The majority of those millions of dollars stay within the state. The amount of profitability in a luxury resort isn't as big as people think. It actually, the majority of it supports businesses here in the islands.
Can I also go workforce? We know workforce is a challenge generally, right? We have a shortage of workforce. I think it's also important to sort of understand AHLA, the American Hotel and Lodging Association, did a study. I don't remember off the top of my head the exact number, but I've heard anecdotally that some people without a college degree can start at a front desk at $50K a year. We often say that, tourism jobs, junk job. None can do nothing. You cannot afford nothing. I would disagree, and I've heard hotel workers who take pride in the work that they do, they love the work that they do, and they do earn a good wage. I know that there's always challenges, and there's always going to be negotiations for more, but I also want to say that not every job is a bad job. I know some guys that work F&B make over 6 figures. My friend's a bartender at a hotel on Oahu's west side. He makes $106,000 a year. So we cannot say that every tourism job is a quote-unquote bad job. They often pay well and have good benefits too. So again, we need to challenge some of these tropes we've been hearing for a long time.
Yes, Anne, the $2.2 billion, how can we carve out some of those dollars to help sustain and strengthen our ohana that are living their lifestyles? Our entire brand is based upon our ways of being. If you don't have Kanaka being in their places, living their lifestyles, we don't have a strong brand, and that's going to affect our total bottom line. I want to see some of those dollars going back to supporting the mahi that want to mahi their aina, the fishermen that want to continue to kilo and support their lifestyles as well. We cannot. So I'm pushing back on your. I
totally agree, and I think we got to rethink the experiences, right? So we can do the usual suspects, right? You can go to Leahi, you can go to Pearl Harbor, you can go do those activities that I think many people are accustomed to. But what if we as a community decided and said, I want to take 10 visitors a week I only want 10. I'm only going to take 10. You charge a good fee for that experience, and you go teach them something because, one, you want to, right? That's a decision you have to make. But I think that there are ways to affect this industry. Instead of just relying on the old way of doing it, we got to create new alternatives, right? So if we don't like how it is now, how do we then create the experiences that we want them to have? How do we support our nonprofits who often are grant funded, right? And that grant funding is cyclical, and it's Ha'ena is a model, right? Where now there's jobs being created for community members in Ha'ena who interact with visitors, and they enjoy it because they get to basically share the best parts about their home that they're willing to and wanting to and is appropriate to be shared. Some stuff we some stuff we hold on to because it's sacred and it shouldn't be shared, but the vast majority could be. And so I think we have to challenge ourselves in that way. Real quick, I want to play a game. If you've heard this game before, I'm sorry, we're going to play it again.
Okay, so obviously Kalani is now the moderator for this panel.
Sorry. Can I just play this one last game real quick?
Go play your game. We got 10 minutes.
Please. Okay, long story short, I'm going to ask you guys to participate. And it goes back to what do we do with marketing and branding? Why is it important? Because I think oftentimes our community says, oh, marketing is just to attract more visitors. It's only to create visitor demand. It's only there to drive visitors coming to the destination. And I would actually challenge that notion because I think since 2018, we've really taken a much different approach in providing education and repositioning how people perceive Hawaii in their minds before they get here.
What is this game?
Okay. I had to set it up. Pat Sajak, take it.
We've known each other a long time. This is normal.
I think marketing and branding is an important thing because it sets the expectation in the mind of the traveler before they get here. And if they come with a better expectation, they come with a better humility and desire to learn, and they understand Hawaii as a place of learning, as opposed to what might have been sun, satin, and surf, and R&R and all of that. It totally changes the behavior, but it's gonna take a long time because for over the last 100 years, it was sun, sand, and surf. I'm gonna do two destinations. I want you to think about what comes to mind. There's no right or wrong answer. You keep it to yourself, don't need to shout it out, but I wanna demonstrate the importance of a brand. Las Vegas. Okay? Yeah, all the things in your head. The Vatican, all the things in your head. Two totally different places, right? Evokes two different senses of your relationship to how you're going to visit that place. Totally different, right? Sin City and, the home of the Catholic Church, right? And so they're very different experiences in your head now because of how you did that. Our branding is trying to change how people think about Hawaii. How do they understand and appreciate the uniqueness of this place? How do we build within them in I'ini this desire to want to protect and malama Hawaii like we do? They've known aloha for a long, long time, but the sister value to that is malama. Malama is not a campaign, it's not a slogan, it's a value we live by. How do we get them on board? How do we make them a part of caring for this place?
Did I win?
You did.
Okay, so I'm going to do one more question, and then we'll do a final round of quick fire. On this final question, this question is only for Kawika. And I want this to be a model for every other discussion around tourism that will happen related to Maui going forward. And that's why I only want to hear from you. The wildfire drastically impacted economic activity, not just on this island, but across the state. Every island is suffering. Without going to Jen for the numbers, we know that the bookings are failing miserably statewide, which is, could be pandemic levels bad because there's no PPP loans this time, right? So as Lahaina rebuilds, you of this place, of this aina, we're all here to listen to what you would like to see for your community in that rebuilding. What does rebuilding tourism look like, if at all, for a community like Lahaina? And then I want everyone, as he's talking about it, to think about it. How do we extrapolate that to every other destination across the state that we want to change? We want to huli. This is all you.
First of all, after Kalani said that, I have to go confession. But I would have to say, regarding the fires and Lahaina town, luckily, miraculously, some businesses, such as ours, were spared major damage. And we're very, very lucky. Akua, whatever you did, mahalo. But it's also very sad that we lost one of our sister luau's completely, Fistet Lele, and 2 business offices that were historic buildings. I was in a couple of meetings with planning, with the businesses that were on Front Street that are not standing, how we're going to move forward. And I told them, the way you remember Lahaina Town on August 7, it's very unlikely it's going to look like that. And we are going to figure it out. The community is going to figure it out. We had panel discussions earlier. I think there's more tomorrow about that. It's going to be ongoing. The fire, there's a silver lining somewhere in there. This is our opportunity to create what we want, how it should be. The discussion of Moku'ula as being the base, of course. But our discussion today about tourism, I do not want to look past the most important thing right now, and that is the housing situation. And those that are doing the fishing protest down at Ka'anapali Beach, Jordan Rudez, Junya Nakua, just to name a few. I'm not sure who else is out there, but we thank them for what they're doing, because in order for us to even think of tourism, we need our workers. And when I said Maui, allure is the people and the place. And if our people are not ready to come back, we're going to be replacing a lot of our tourism businesses with people from out of state. And pretty soon, you're going to be ordering your meal or going to someplace that have people that you would have got in San Francisco, Dallas, New York, and all of a sudden, the beauty and what Maui stands for is not there. We need to get our people back into housing, feel good about themselves, come back, and help with the tourism rebuild. Now, the Old Lahaina Luau also includes Star Noodle, Leota's Kitchen and Pie Shop, our central kitchen up above. And we're happy, again, that we're still standing. And I did ask those that make these decisions, let's build from those buildings that are still standing outwards, because it's going to be faster. And not faster just to bring tourists in, but these are restaurants and businesses that help the people. There's banks that we need to be brought back. 2, 3 banks burnt down in Lahaina Town. We have places like Ross's, and all these places don't have water. You know, we need Ross's, we need Foodland Farms, we need these stores. I'm not sure what the priorities are, but that is a way that I think we can start there and build out. Those businesses that are closest to the burn area are probably the furthest away from thinking of opening. Those that are on the outskirts, they are probably okay to open. Opening is very important because some people feel that it's insensitive. And we at the Old Lahaina Luau are being very sensitive. We're meeting with community leaders to find out when is the right time. And that is not the easiest thing. We are probably not going to open our luau till next year, sometime 2024, even though we had only minimum damage. Our priority and our focus are, of course, our people and the residents. Let's get them their housing, please.
Mahalo, Kawika. Let that be an example to anyone trying to maybe proactively think about how to jumpstart the industry, that we need to start by listening very specifically to the people who come from the places that need rebuilding. Maybe I should repeat that. If anyone's trying to take any drastic action, maybe we should start with the community members. There is a lot of really good stuff to pull out there, but maybe just to link it all up. These are not, independent silos, right? It's concentric circles. It's housing, it's economics, it's employing your cousin and your mom and your dad and your auntie and your uncle, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when one of those circles starts to fail, it impacts all the other circles. And so maybe to wrap it up, Blaine had a really great thought about, being a host, what it means to be a host. For my tutu, the front door was always open, and I don't think she ever turned anyone who came to the front door away. To me, that's what is embedded in our culture. So it's not as simple as just shutting the gates. One, because we can't do that because of the U.S. Constitution. But two, that's not who we are. That's like, since when do we shut the door and lock it and tell people beat it? We have to find a way to balance it. I'm not saying tourism's the answer, but the very best of us is in our hospitality and who we are, and that all drills down through all these different funnels to the people at Old Lahaina Luau who won't be able to return to work for another year, right? And so it's a lot more complex than simply saying do reopen or don't reopen. With that, final question, because we've got a couple of minutes left. We have 2 minutes left, so let's keep this one brief. One actionable step for the audience, one thing they can go out and do in the next couple of weeks or months that you think can help move the needle in terms wherever you want it to be, whether it be addressing funding shortages at HTA or supporting Lahaina in its rebuild or expanding opportunities at the hotels so that, these management training programs that take a Native Hawaiian who starts in the call center and ends up being the first Native Hawaiian GM, any one of those, whatever you want, one actionable step for the audience. We'll start with Joe.
I think it's important for us to have Native Hawaiian leaders in private businesses and not just nonprofit organizations. I think I can name in one hand how many Native Hawaiians are at the helm of resorts. Ha'aheo, Kaimana Beach Hotel, Doug Chang, Ritz-Carlton Waikiki, and a few others. And I think me being a small fish in a big pond, but I'm the decision maker and I have the ability to create the Kiska program. I have the ability of selecting which cultural programs. I'm a decision maker. Being Native Hawaiian is very unique. What's ingrained in our blood, in our history. Hawaiians were here for generation after generation. Hospitality, as you were mentioning, doors always open, is part of who we are. Cultural sustainability, environmental sustainability is part of who we are. And I think having Native Hawaiian leaders in key positions of decision making is where we need to go into the future so that we can be at the table and have a voice. It's a little bit challenging. It takes a lot of training to run a multi-million-dollar corporation. And I think that we need to have action steps to create mechanisms and venues and training programs, as you were mentioning, so that we have the skill set to take the helm and be effective leaders. We're very akamai people. And I think that we need to do our effort to make sure that we are at the table in everything that we do.
So the action is, if you are an organization and you are the leader, make sure you got training programs to bring young kanaka up. And if there isn't one at your organization and you want to go up, demand that of your boss. Okay, Kawika, actionable step for the audience.
Okay, the way I look at it, again, we need employees, we need our residents. I want our residents, our local people, Native Hawaiians, to be in the positions in tourism a little bit more. For some reason, Kanaka don't like work for tourism. For some reason, the po'eke'okeo, they don't want to service the po'eke'okeo for some reason. And so what happens is we have to, for me, I hire at the Old Lahaina Luau, a very cultural presentation that we do, but I don't see that many Native Hawaiians come in. What happens is we have to turn around and we have to work hard to instill our culture, what Maui is about, into the people that come into our business. And thanks to what was previous NAHA that used to have that class, and some people were certified to be trainers in Hawaiian values, and I'm fortunate to have taken that course and certified. We teach every single employee that come to our company, whether they're Native Hawaiian or not. Everyone goes to, whether you're a manager or not, whether you're the dishwasher. Some of them cannot even barely speak English. Tell them bring a relative that can translate. This is important stuff. Even if you're not in the face of the guest, your guest is the front of house if you're the back of house. We are all connected. That's what we need to do, is instill with the workers that we have the Hawaiian culture, bring it into our business, and that is one way I think tourism can turn. And if I could wave that magic wand, let's do that.
Awesome. And also, if you're a practitioner or a trainer, charge them. Up your rates. It's a commodity. it's our cultural intellectual property. And so don't be ashamed to ask for more if they want your skills, because you know what? It's worth it. Okay, Mahina.
Dr. Emmett Noah Aluli said this: the health of the land is the health of the people. How is this relevant? How is this mana'o relevant to what we're talking about today? This is a huliau, and we need our best thinking. We need to innovate. We need the innovative solutions that we've been talking about. We have examples like Ha'ena, right? Who've built a microeconomic model that's working, that's controlled and managed by their people. We can expand upon that. So what I am asking all of you, e ku'u po'e aina aloha, ku'u po'e aloha aina. We need to say one thing, and we're in alignment here. I believe the legislators, state legislators, county legislators, philanthropists, business people, community are all saying the same thing. We want to pivot to a regenerative tourism model that is authentic to us. And this is our charge. This is our collective kuleana. We have to demand it. Regenerative tourism today, not tomorrow, today. And we need to bring the solutions, a practical, tangible strategies and solutions and models that can be implemented. I serve all of you. I occupy my seat because it is our collective seat. So I'm asking to bring forth your best innovative ideas to make this real today.
The call to action is go to Mahina. Okay, Kalani, you got 30 seconds, no games.
No games. I just want to say mahalo. But I think as we continue this journey of this huliau and what it could be and what we want it to look like, I want us to amplify our curiosity, and I want us to continue to have difficult conversations, because I think it's through those difficult conversations where we really get curious about why the status quo is the way it is and why it resists change. That's the only way we make the breakthroughs, is when we kind of put down the walls a little bit, get curious, and have difficult conversations. And so I would just continue to have those, and I'm happy to have those with any of you at any time. But yeah, difficult conversations and amplify our curiosity.
And kako o HTA, right? That's the only way we're going to make you stronger in your work, is by trying to be your advocate.
We
right?
certainly would appreciate it.
You guys heard. Okay, so before we close, for those of you who are going on the bus tour, I just want to remind you that the bus is leaving at 3:15 on the dot. So please meet us out on the sidewalk outside of check-in. Again, it was reservations only, so unfortunately, please don't show up if you don't want a ticket, because I'm going to have to tell you no. Besides that, mahalo nui to everyone for joining us for this. Can we get a round of applause for our amazing panelists? Okay, mahalo.